let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us here on this last day of Dev Summit. This is the Extending ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint session. I'm Scott Ball. I'm product manager for this application. This is Chuan Teng. He is our lead developer. He's amazing. He's going to be driving most of the presentation today. I'm going to give us a little bit of an overview. Here's the agenda of what we want to get through today. I'm going to be giving you the ArcGIS high-level platform overview. We've got to start at the beginning. It's going to be quick, I promise, not too painful. We're going to be talking about how ArcGIS and SharePoint can be better together. If you have both things, you can do more. Give you a quick Maps for SharePoint overview for those of you who aren't super familiar with the product that we have today. And then we're going to get into extending ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint, and Chuan's going to take over. And he's going to talk about extension packs, how to create them, what you can do with them, talk about the behaviors, tools, picture sets that you can add into Maps for SharePoint to extend that functionality of our off-the-shelf product. And then at the very end, if we have some time, we want to give you a sneak peek. This is not extensibility stuff, but we have a new exciting feature coming where you can take documents, tag them to features, and then search for those documents by just clicking on features on your map. That's coming in our release that's planned for end of April, early May. And so we want to show you that if we have some time. And then we'll get into some Q&A. So the first thing I want to talk about is the high-level overview, just kind of give you the pitch on why you might want to be interested in ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint. The things you can do, you can share your GIS info from your ArcGIS organization on SharePoint sites. If you want to get that map information onto your SharePoint pages for your teams that use SharePoint to see them, this is a great tool. We have a web part that allows you to put a map on a site page and display your GIS information. Coming soon, you're going to be able to find your geotag documents very quickly. We know how much of a pain it is sometimes to find documents inside SharePoint, so we're trying to give you another tool to be able to do that better. And finally, with your SharePoint lists, we have a workflow that allows you to geocode those lists. So you can actually geocode the lists and then show them on that web part that we allow you to put inside your pages. So those are the main things that ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint does. So stepping back a little bit, at the very high level, we want to talk about the importance of the WebGIS pattern. In the early days of GIS, everything was on your desktop, stored kind of locally. It was really hard to get it out to other people if you didn't print it or if you didn't put it on a disk and give them the disk. Then it moved into kind of this server-based architecture. A lot of people are still there, but the latest and greatest that Esri has really gone all in on is the WebGIS pattern. And as that is moving or registering your content with ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise, and that is how most applications, most modern applications through Esri, they're foundational. This WebGIS, ArcGIS thing is what we rely on for most of our apps. Once you get your content into ArcGIS Online or Enterprise, which is represented by that cloud down there at the bottom, you can do a lot of stuff with it. You can access your content just about anywhere on any device. That's kind of the pitch behind this. You can use our field apps so that if you're in the field, you can access your live GIS content. You can update your live GIS content from the field. You can use business applications like ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint, Maps for Office, Maps for Power BI to pull that content in and view it in your business applications across the organization. We have a number of other different kinds of applications that you can use, but the point being, once you get them into ArcGIS Online or Enterprise, you can do a lot. ArcGIS and SharePoint, like I said before, if you have both of these things, you can do some pretty neat stuff. So there are three major patterns that we see when we see people using SharePoint. We see people using it for web hosting, either internal or external, to host pages and just show content. The second thing that we see people doing is using SharePoint as a team collaboration site. So they might say, hey, everybody on this particular project, all of your resources and all of your information is here on this page. Check it out. This is where the most current up-to-date information lives. And finally, we see a lot of people using SharePoint for document management. So Esri, with our ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint plugin today, we support two of those patterns. We support the web hosting pattern and the team collaboration site pattern. And that's through those workflows that we talked about and the web part that we talked about. So let's go a little bit more into that. So without Maps for SharePoint, you can have a list on your site. You can have a page on your SharePoint site. With Maps for SharePoint, we can geo-enable that list, like I said before, with a locate workflow. So once we do that, we actually geocode using either our World Geocoding service or a service that you might configure it to point at of your own. And then we store that geometry information inside the list in a new column. Once that happens, it's able to be used on this thing that I referenced earlier, which is our web part. It's a map web part that you can put on your SharePoint pages, and this thing can access information from those geo-enabled SharePoint lists or from ArcGIS. So you can mash up content from your list with information coming from ArcGIS, put them on the same map, and let your users see all of it. And finally, this third pattern, as I have mentioned already a couple times, this is something that's new. We're going to be supporting this as of our next release. So we'll be able to kind of support all of these different patterns that we see people using SharePoint in. The overall idea behind this is, in the past, traditional GIS has typically been siloed within a larger organization. It's been within the GIS department, which may or may not have visibility into the rest of the organization. Once you have ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint and some of our other business applications, you can actually get your GIS content very easily throughout the entire organization. So you don't have to have GIS pros with desktop on their, or ArcGIS Pro on their desktop machines. They can just be using a web browser, go into the SharePoint pages that they always use, and be able to access the same content that our GIS analysts and GIS professionals have always had access to. So this kind of elevates the standing of the GIS department within the organization whenever your information becomes mission critical and available to everybody. So talking through how we integrate into SharePoint is going to be the next section. There are 5 main integration points that I'm going to talk through. If we think about SharePoint being kind of a front end and a back end, the front end is what the users will see. The back end is what's going on in the background on the servers. We integrate into both places. First, on the front end, we integrate through a visualization in a couple ways. We've got the maps web part that I've been talking about. That's the actual map that you see on a SharePoint page that you would expose to your users. The second way that we integrate into SharePoint is a location field. So if you use our locate workflow and geo-enable your list, once that list has been geo-enabled, you will see a new item whenever you drill into records on that list, and it will be a little mini map that will show you exactly where that item has been geocoded to. So that location field gives you a reference, tells you where the thing is, and it actually allows you to go in and edit the precise geolocation of that thing. So if we run it through our geocoder, it comes back and it's generally right, but specifically wrong. You can go in, edit it, move it to the front door, move it to the back door, move it wherever you want in the little mini map, and we'll record that and store that back with the information. Finally, we allow you to do extensibility. We allow you to actually customize this front end stuff. And that's the majority of what we're going to be talking about today. Chuan's going to go into that a little bit later. I'm not going to focus on it too hard right now. On the back end, we've got 2 different workflows. We've got the locate workflow. That's the one I've been mentioning that actually will connect to your lists, run it through a service, a geocoding service or a geo-enablement service, and actually store that information back with your list so that it can be used on one of these map web parts. The second one is our connect workflow, and that allows you to connect to external databases. So if you've got like a SQL server where a lot of your data lives, you can connect to that, geo-enable that, and actually connect to it and show it on this map web part that we have as well. So with that being said, I believe we are ready for Chuan to take over, and he is going to talk about how we can extend ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint. So let's put you on 3.
That's 3, yeah, that's me.
Okay.
So I'll be talking about extending ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint. Although this product has a lot to offer, but sometimes you might find some of your own business logic is not there, and you want to extend it because you have your own business logic. And this product has an extensibility feature for you to extend this product. And you can write your own code to interact with the map or the layers in your own way. So this is an overview of the extensibility technology. Basically, you need to write JavaScript code. And Esri JavaScript API code is built on top of Dojo. And our Extensibility API is built on top of JS API. So this is a architecture overview of how your code will be located. Your code will be located on top of the Extensibility API. So the Dojo is on the bottom, then comes JS API, then comes our API, then comes your code. Your code will be utilizing all Dojo, JS API, and our extensibility feature. And you can also utilize SharePoint JS API, which is a client-side object model. So in your extensibility code, you can call JavaScript code, you can call JS JavaScript code, you can call SharePoint client-side JavaScript code. So you can interact with your SharePoint data, your ArcGIS Online data, and your own data. This is the map web part that Scott was talking about. This is where majorly your new tools will be called from. And we have several tool containers on this map web part. So you see we have menus, and everything you see here right now is out of the box. So we have analysis tools, we have our data tools, we have map content tools on the bottom. So you can move layer up and down, remove layer, rename layer. We have map-specific tools that you can interact with the map. You can select features on the map. You can change base map for the map. You can set routing. You can call routing feature for the map. And we have layer-specific tools. When you add a layer to the map, you can do configuration for the particular layer. You can share layer. You can change the rendering of that layer. You can turn on and off pop-ups. You can configure pop-ups. You can change visibility range, change the transparency. Those are the layer-specific tools. And we also have feature-specific tools. When you open the pop-up on a feature for a particular layer, you can interact with that feature. You get the feature attribute, you get the feature geometry. Then other box tools we can call infographic services to get some social economic data around that feature area. You can zoom to SharePoint list location for that feature. You can create some report. You can also create tools for selections of the features on your map. So those highlighted red areas are the tool containers. And we have put lots of existing functionalities to these tool containers. And as a matter of fact, Esri Maps for SharePoint itself is written using extensibility package. So you'll be creating your own. So what are we extending? You can create tools. You can create behaviors. You can have your own picture marker set. Let me show you an example of what a custom tool looks like. So this is a page I inserted a map web part, and this page, and on the map I added a Chicago schools from SharePoint. And when I click on the point on the map, you will see the pop-up. But you will see an extra house icon there. That's a custom tool. And based on the tooltip, you can guess that the major thing the tool does is it will do a red thing search by the zip code. So if I click on it, it will open a new tab. It will actually find the location of that school point and do a geocoding to get the zip code, then call Redfin API to navigate the user to a Redfin page. So people can, navigate, so a newcomer to this community while they are hunting for schools, they can also take a look at the house pricing around that area. So this is a custom tool. Left click?
You said right click, right?
Oh, sorry, left click. Yeah, left click on the point and left click on the icon. Yeah.
And
The second thing you can extend is behaviors. Behaviors is event-driven. When a map is clicked or map action changes or a layer is added, we can call your own function. You can call your own code to react to those events. So let me show you an example. This is an empty map I inserted, and I also have inserted a DOM to the page. And every time I pan the map or zoom the map, resulting in the accent of the map changes, I can get the on-the-fly coordinate and the zoom level of the map. This is not out of the box. This is something that I write to happen. So I will show the source code in a moment. The third thing we can extend is picture marker set. And our product has offered lots of default picture markers for you to style the layer, especially for the point. So, for example, business and the facilities, we have lots of out-of-the-box icons, and they are categorized in groups. And maybe they are not enough for your own styling or branding purposes. So you can create and upload your own picture marker set, and you can use your own picture markers to style your map. So those are the three things that you will write and provide as an extension package. And we will render those tools, behaviors, and picture marker set on the map. Let me continue with my slides. So I'll dig into the code, how to write a tool, how to write a behavior, and how to create a picture marker set. This is how we can organize your extension packages. All the tools, behaviors, and picture marker set that you implement will be outlined in the manifest file. This file will be contained in the root level of your extension package. And this file is the most important thing to describe what is contained in your extension package. And when you upload this file, when you make this file known by us, we will find the tools, we'll find the behaviors, and find the picture marker sets, and make them available to you. So I'll start by talking about how to write a custom tool. We have an underscore tool base class, and you need to extend this base class and implement your own execute function. And in this function, you can write your own code to interact with the map using JS API or SharePoint API. And in the execute function, you will have access to the current map object. So with the map object, you can call any JS API interacting with a map object. You can set base map, you can zoom the map, you can add layers, you can do anything with that map. Let me show an example of the Redfin tool. So let me show the code of the Redfin tool. This is the Redfin tool. This is the extension package that contains the Redfin tool. This is the Redfin search tool source code. And you see I have loaded the underscore module, and it's from this part. This module is available when you install a product. And this module will extend from this module. And most importantly, you have to implement the execute function and initialize function. In the initialize function, you have access to the app object. We're passing the app object. And in the app object, you have access to the pop-up and the map. And here, I just add an event listener on the selection change. And when people are click on the point or polygons of the layer, on the layers on the map, this selection change event will occur. And within the callback of the event, we will get the graphic, the feature of the clicked point or polyline by calling app.popup.getSelectedFeatures. And here, we will query its geometry type. If it is a point, we will make this tool visible. If it is not a point, we will make this tool not visible. Because I only want to expose this tool if the feature is a point data. Then I click on the point. This execute function will be called. This underscore graphic will be the graphic that I just clicked on. And I have access, this graphic is the Esri JS API graphic instance. So I have access to its attribute, I have access to its geometry, and here the logic is straightforward. I will see if it has an existing attribute, things like zip code, or zip code. If I have it, I'll just grab it. If the geometry does not have an attribute of zip code, I will just do a reverse geocoding to find the address information and extract the postal information from it, and that will be the zip code. Once I get the zip code, I call show Redfin, and this is the Redfin URL, and it's a REST URL, and once you put the zip code as part of URL, it will just show the housing information for that zip code. So this is a custom tool example. So let me go back to the slides. Things we can specify includes description, icon class, and you can control the visibility of the tool by calling this.set visible true, this.set visible false. And if I click on a polygon feature, then that tool will not show. You can also control the availability of the tool. The tool can be enabled, the tool can be shown but disabled. You can call this.set enable true, this.set enable false. You can have your own event listener added in this tool when you are in the initialize function. So this is the tool. Let's move to the behaviors. Behaviors is a piece of code that will be called automatically once some event occurs. The event could be a map event, it could be a layer event, and you have to specify what event name you are interested in listening. And when the event occurs, what code you want to execute. So here you need to implement execute method, you need to specify the event name, and you need to extend from the underscore behavior module. So let's see the source code of the map behavior example that I showed a moment ago. I will show you the source code of this behavior. It's called map info behavior. So here I am extending from underscore map behavior. It's a map behavior, and event name is action change. So in the initialize function, I can pass in the app, and from the app we can access the map. Then this underscore map will be your JS API map instance. Then I inserted a hard-coded DOM to the layout. Then in the execute, I just need to get that DOM reference, and I set its inner HTML to render the map coordinate and room level. So I have a function called format map center info, passing in the map instance, and in the map instance, I get the map accent, I get the center, which is in the web marketer projection. I will call a JS API utility method to convert the web marketer coordinate into geographic coordinate, so I get the lat and long. Then I call some Dojo string formatting code to format my string. So I will show things like x equal a value, y equal a value, and level equals to the map level. So here I'm using JS API, I'm using Dojo API. The third, this is another example showing the behavior. And we are extending from the underscore map behavior. We are interested in the click event, and in execute, we just do alert map was clicked. This is the most, this is the simplest behavior module you can think of. The picture marker set. Picture marker set, you can imagine we have to specify what are those pictures. Those pictures has to be included, and the path of the pictures, and the dimension, the x, y offset of those pictures. So let me show you an example. our picture marker set in the extension package. In these 3 sets extension package, I have a symbols folder, and in the symbols folder, we have all kinds of the PNG files. And for each subfolder in that symbols folder, we have a JSON file to specify this is a picture marker symbol and the URL of the picture, the size of the picture, the X and Y offset of the picture. Then once you upload the extension pack to SharePoint, those pictures are at your disposal. This is the example of the picture marker set. You can do a relative path. You can also do absolute path. So if you have picture hosted in a CDN or globally, you don't need to include those files inside the extension pack. You just need to provide a absolute path to that picture source. And if you have you do want to upload local files, you can do relative path too. So let's take a look at the manifest. Manifest is the entry point of the entire extension pack. It lists what tools are there, what behaviors are there, what picture marker sets are there. This is an example of the manifest file. It's a JSON file. It's a text file. And it has its own name, description, and a tool array, behaviors array, picture marker sets array. And in tools array, you have to specify where your implementation is. And behaviors, where's your implementation of your own behaviors. Your picture marker set, you have to specify your JSON file that describes what are those pictures embedded in your picture marker set. So let me show you a real example of manifest file. The 3 sets is a really big extension package. And you will find all the source code of behaviors, tools, and the picture marker set inside of this 3 sets folder. And in the root level of this folder, you will find the manifest file. And this manifest file has name and description. And this description can be a HTML snippet. And we even embedded some YouTube video in it. So if you write your own HTML there, they will be rendered as HTML. So we can have a rich content in the description part. In the tools array, we have several tools, including the Redfin tools. And we say the implementation of this tool is here. It's a relative path. It's in the Redfin search folder, tool subfolder, Redfin search. So within these 3 sets folder, we should provide a Redfin search folder and a subfolder called tools and a Redfin search source code there. And the same specification has to be done for the behaviors, the name, label, and the location of your implementation code. Picture marker set, we have 3 picture marker set. We have fruit set, happy set, and large set. And those pictures can be found in this symbol folder. Once you have implemented your tools, behaviors, and picture marker set, and you have written your own manifest to describe them, to describe the location of them, how will you let our product know? There were 3 ways. You can either upload a zip file. You have put everything that you implemented in a single folder. You create a zip file out of it. Then you upload this zip file to SharePoint. You can also link from SharePoint. If you upload these files to a SharePoint hidden document library, and you can use that document library as the root URL, and that root URL contains the manifest file, then our code will know where to find those implementations. You can also link from an open address. You may have your own web server. It can be IIS server. It can be a Linux Apache server. Once you host those tools and behavior source code in that server, you can also provide a link to that server location, and we can also load tools there. It doesn't have to be in your SharePoint server. So I will demo how we upload extension pack, how we link from address. If you go to the SharePoint site and go to the site settings, and here we have two links related to our product. One is app configuration, the other is manage extensions. And if you are opening an empty SharePoint site, just install our product, this page will be empty. There will be no extension pack. But here I have uploaded 5 extension pack. The 3 sets that I showed you a moment ago is one of them. And I hosted these 3 sets, source code in here. C drive, I hosted using IIS, inetpub, 3w root, 3 sets. And in here, you will find the manifest file. You will find the thumbnail, which is rendered here. You will find the tool implementation code, behavior code, and picture microset code here. And the path to this URL is this. This is the path to that extension pack. So let me delete this extension pack and reload this extension pack. So it's deleted. I refresh the page. You'll see there are only 4. And when you click on the drop-down triangle, you can link from address. So here you provide the URL, paste. And if this is a valid URL, meaning under this level, we can find a manifest file. Then we will pass that file to see if it is invalid. If it is valid and all the tools are available, we will notify SharePoint that this extension package is valid. Then we will go to the view extension packages page. Here you will see a nice representation of the same manifest file. It will render the description properly. It will show you the available tools, behaviors, and picture marker sets in that extension package. So here you can see the description is a rich HTML section, including a embedded YouTube. You will see the tools section. We have 2 tools, 2 behaviors, and 3 picture macro symbol sets. And here you can also preview the picture macro symbol sets. And for the tools, you will see the 2 description. They are all mentioned. They are all outlined in this extension manifest file. So once the extension package, this extension package is made known to SharePoint, our map web part will pick it up. So let me go back to the extension packs. I can also upload an extension package file as a zip code, as a zip file. So let me delete this dev summit. I can upload a zip file. Desktop. If you view the content of the zip file, it will be just a zip file embedding all the manifest files to implementation in a single file. So this file is simpler. The description is shorter. It has only 1 tool, 1 behavior, and 1 simple picture macro symbol set. And the differences between those 2 those 3 ways of letting SharePoint know about your extension packages is if you are still developing your tools, it will be beneficial or very convenient for you to use the link from address option because you host your code somewhere, you can modify your code directly, and when you apply your tools and behaviors in your map, and if things doesn't work, you can modify your code in that web server and see your code changes take effect. Once you are done developing the code, done developing all the things you want to include, then you want to hand it over to your SharePoint admin on the real production server. You may want to zip everything as a zip file and hand it over to him, and he will use the upload option, and that will be more convenient. So this is a screenshot of showing the current site contains 3 extension packages. I want to show you a more comprehensive demo. One of them involves a behavior, custom behavior, which is this one. This one has a map extent change behavior. And the map extent currently, we set the map extent to be the Disneyland resort in California. And people can only zoom in, and people cannot navigate away from this area. If he navigate away from this area, we will navigate user back. They cannot go to any other area. This is done by a behavior called constraint extend behavior, embedded in 3 sets extension pack. And in the source code, you will see we extend map behavior module. We are interested in extend change. And in the initialize function, we get passed in map app where we can get a hold of reference of the map. We can set the map extent to be a default extent, which is defined here. And this is the Disneyland resort area. And we can we add 2 events to listen to map pan start and zoom start. And in the pan start and zoom start, we want to make a copy of the current extent. In case user move to a undesired extent, we want to set the map extent back to that previous extent. So this copy extent method just take a copy of the previous extent. And in the execute function, which is fired when extent changes, we get the current center, and we get the default center. And if we just do a simple math calculation, if they're away, if your current map center is 1 kilometer away from the supposed center, then we will set the map extent back to the old extent. It's pretty straightforward code. Another example I want to show is this crime map. This map shows the Chicago area school locations, Chicago community polygons, and the Chicago crime report in 2016. The schools and the crime are rendered using a custom pictures symbol set pictures. Those crime-related symbol set is not available in out-of-the-box product, but we have the extension package to have those. So we can render the crime based on the crime type. And we also have if you click on the community polygon, and we have this extra tool that will find the most recent 3 crimes in this area. So when I click on this identify icon, I get a pop-up showing the most recent crimes happened in this area. And if you click on the school point, you will see this red thing tool again. But when you click on the polygon, the red thing tool is not shown, because that tool is, if you recall my previous code, is only visible when the clicked graphic is a point graphic, not a polygon graphic. So let me show you a little source code about this statistics. When I click on a community polygon, when I click on this tool, how this is done. So I have the Chicago extension pack, and in the manifest, I have this neighborhood statistics tool, and the source code is specified to be in here. So I can just go to here to see its source code. It implements the underscore tool, and in the execute function, we get the clicked on graphic. Then we will calculate the filtering geometry. If the graphic is a point, we will calculate a buffer. If the clicked graphic is a polygon, we will use a polygon. And then when we get a polygon or a buffer, we will query all the graphics in the current crime layer and sort them by the date and find the first 3 crime and construct some string to show the property of those crimes, like the date or the crime type, then do an alert. The last thing I want to show is how to make the tool known by the map. So I would create an empty map and add layers, and you will see how can we find those tools and behaviors. I click New, Demo, Create, Insert, Web Part, ArcGIS Maps Web Part. Although you upload the extension pack to the map to the SharePoint, you still have to insert the tool specifically to a tool container. So for example, so now it's an empty map. Basically, nothing is there. Let me add 1 layer. I'll just add the Chicago schools layer. And we have a little gear icon here. When I click on here, you can configure this map. And here you will see the 2 containers. We have the manual tool container, the pop-up tool container to, when you want to, for example, the Redfin search tool is a pop-up tool container. It's deployed to the pop-up tool container. You have the selection tool container, a map tool container. I want to add the Redfin search tool to the pop-up. So I highlight the pop-up tool container. Here is other box pop-up tools. They are working with a particular feature. And I click Add. And once you upload the extension package to SharePoint, you will see they will be available here. So if you recall, we have 5 custom extension packages. The top 3 are out-of-the-box ones. And they contain the out-of-the-box functionalities. And the bottom 5 are the uploaded ones. So I know my Redfin search extension package contains this Redfin search by zip tool. So add, OK, then save. Now from that moment on, if you open the pop-up of a feature, then you will see that extension, that Redfin search tool is available. The same way you can add behaviors, you can add other tools, you can put the tools to any other tool containers. So now Redfin search is added to the pop-up. So I think at this moment I will hand it back over to Scott to talk about some new feature.
Cool. Thanks, Chuan. Great job. Let's make sure it's me. All right. So I want to show you guys some of the new stuff that we've been working on around document geotagging and searching. We've been working on it for a little while. Code is complete. It is being tested right now, so it should be in your hands shortly. So the key features of these new things that we have been developing, first is geo-searching. The problem that we were trying to solve, as I mentioned before, it's sometimes hard to find documents within SharePoint. You drill into folders, you come back out of the folders, you drill into other folders, you come back out of the folders, it's a nightmare. So we thought, hey, we're a mapping company. What if you want to find your documents by a spatial component? You want to just use a map to find the document. The document's relating to something in the real world. Why not use a map? So the first thing we expect users to be able to do once you add this new app part onto your page, it's going to come up in this search mode. And so it's going to assume that documents have already been tagged to features on this map. So when you're searching, you can search for tags just by clicking on features on the map. You click on one of these things, one of these features on your map. It uses the native SharePoint search engine, which up here at the top, it says tags 171 blah, blah, blah. That's the attribute that's been configured to be tagged to the document. So it's searching for that thing that I just clicked on, the 171 blah, blah, blah. It provides a familiar SharePoint experience whenever you search for things. So when I clicked on that oil well in this particular example, it gave me a list of documents that have been tagged to that oil well. When I hover over one of those documents, I get kind of a native SharePoint experience. I see a preview. I can open the document. I've also got a filtering capability up here, and so your native SharePoint filtering and refiner experience is there, so you can refine by date, by document type, by author. So those things are going to be able to help you narrow that down in case you have like hundreds of documents tagged to something. So GeoSearch will be available after you have already configured this app part and after you've already tagged some documents to some of those features. Tagging documents to features is what I'll talk about next. So when you're configuring this thing, you can add layers from ArcGIS, you can add layers from your geo-enabled SharePoint lists. That will get features on your map. Once you have features on your map, you need to configure a tagging attribute, essentially. You're going to pick one of your attributes and say this is essentially the unique ID for this particular feature, and I want to tag that to my SharePoint documents. And so once you have that set up, you can actually go in. We give you this other geotag tool right here. Once you go into that geotag tool, it's essentially going to give you a file browser. So you can browse for files on your SharePoint site. You can drag files from that file browser onto these features, and that will actually tag the SharePoint document itself using SharePoint's native tagging technology. It uses the native SharePoint search engine, so this isn't like a proprietary Esri thing. It's not being stored on our servers. It's actually being baked into the documents on SharePoint. Anything else I need to cover? I think that's about it. I want to give you a quick look at it. I do think that I have this on my, I can go ahead and give the demo. Yeah. So let me bring that up. So this is that tool that I was telling you about. When users come to this page for the first time, it's going to have this GeoSearch tool open because we assume most people are going to be searching for documents whenever they come to this page. They can browse around the map, they can look and see the different things that are on the map, and then they can click on a well or a feature that they may want to interrogate. So when I click on that particular oil well that I just clicked on, you'll see that those two documents that have been tagged to it come up. As I mentioned, when you hover over one of those documents, it's going to give you a document preview. I can use these refiners up here to refine by result type. Like let's say for this one, I have one document, one Excel file, so I just want to see the Excel files. So it's kind of a native SharePoint experience in terms of what happens once you find the results. If you want to tag things to those wells that we have on our map, I've gone into our geotag tool, which is up here on the toolbar. I can browse through the different things that are on my SharePoint site. So I'm going to go into this West Feliciana folder. I have a number of different things that I can drill into. And so let's say I want to tag all of these items to one of these features. So I've enabled both the polygons, which are counties, as well as the wells themselves to be taggable. So once I release my mouse button, which I'm holding down right now, you can see that it's saying geotagging attributes to be used. I'm going to be tagging it with the county name, and I'm going to be tagging it with the well name. So I'm going to release. It's going to do a little bit of processing, and it's saying it's tagging 8 documents. And so there you go. And so over here, I can see in my tagging tool that all of these documents on my site now have 3 tags. So if I hover over that, I will see that I have tagged those 3 tags to this particular document. If I messed up, I can take one of those off. Let's say I don't actually want this well to be associated with it, just that well and the county name. That is how that works. That's how I can get documents tagged to features on my map. That's how users can search for features once they're on the map. I haven't shown you the layers list, but the layers list, you can see that I have these little blue icons to the right. That means that those layers are configured for tagging. And so I've taken some action to configure the layer for tagging. So what I can do is I can go into those layer properties, and if I were signed in as a level 2 named user, I would be able to edit those properties. So that's a kind of a key thing here. We expect the person configuring this map part, they're going to need to be a level 2 ArcGIS named user. They will be able to configure this. set it up for use by the people in the organization. If these layers have security on them, then we will require at least some level of ArcGIS security to see them. If you want to make these publicly available to everybody in your organization, you can share them publicly, and then anybody within your organization would be able to use this tool. So that's a little overview of our tagging and searching tool that's coming. We're pretty excited about it. The people that we talk to seem to be pretty excited about it. So it will be in your hands, hopefully end of April, beginning of May. That's when our next release is going to be coming out. So let me pop back over into our presentation. I've got maybe 1 or 2 more slides. I want to talk about what's coming, and then we'll open it up for some questions. So in terms of what's coming next, the big things are the tagging and searching features. That's really the big thing for the next release. We have been working since our last release doing bug fixes, so there's a whole slew of bug fixes that are going to be coming as well. So if there's something that's been bugging you or nagging you, there's a good chance that it's fixed there. So yeah, we're pretty excited about that release. In the midterm, we're looking at some UX enhancements, again, more bug fixes, and we're talking about changing some things as far as sharing goes. So today, sharing happens from the web part. So as you're viewing essentially your web map within your SharePoint page, you can click a button, you can click a tool that says share this to my ArcGIS site. And so it can either go to Portal or ArcGIS Online, and it's going to take a snapshot of what you're looking at right now, and it's going to publish that to ArcGIS. And then the next time if you go in and update that, it's going to blow that away, it's going to put a new one up there. And that works for some workflows, but it doesn't work for a lot of workflows. And so what we're thinking about doing is moving the sharing from the web part into the workflow. So the geocoding workflow, if you configure it to do this, we'll be able to geocode your records, each item in your list. And then if you've configured it to do so, it can also update a published list on your ArcGIS site. So at the same time that it's geocoding it, it's keeping that feature service on ArcGIS in sync at the same time. And so that makes a lot of sense to us, and we're looking at doing that post our next release. It's not going to be in the one coming in April, May. It's going to be a little bit beyond that. But that's what we're thinking of doing as far as sharing improvements. So something we think is going to help out a lot. And now we get to the fun part. Let's do some Q&A. Does anybody have any questions? Yep, up here in the front row.
When you were doing the presentation, I may have just been confused. You were calling up, you said right click. Did you mean right click or just click?
Click.
Okay, because a normal user is not going to right click.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a mistake. I mean, no right click, just click.
Okay, so sure.
Yeah.
That's starting to get nervous.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? Yep, right here.
Is there a Chicago example available?
The question was, is the Chicago example available?
Some of the extension pack that I showed today is in our documentation. Can you move it to my?
Yeah.
Chicago's extension pack is not there yet. ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint, Esri. Yeah, this is our product documentation page, and get
that's the product
started.
page. Yeah.
Let me search this ArcGIS for ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint Extend. Yeah, so here, most of the slices that I show related to extension packages are also well documented here. They are in much more details. You can take a look at here. And we have a samples site, and we have, for example, the Redfin search, constraint extent. Chicago extension site, Chicago extension package is not there.
I just want to do something similar to what you did.
Yeah, is that something we can share?
We can.
Okay.
We can. And then we are thinking of uploading those extension package code to a GitHub site. So people can just git clone and get going.
And even before we do that, if you want to come up and give us your information, we can send it to you.
But you're gonna put everything on GitHub?
Hmm?
You said you put everything on GitHub?
Yeah, I'm planning on doing that.
Yeah, it's not there now, but we're planning to. Yeah.
Well, he's got 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So I think I missed this part. What are you using as the map? Is it, are you just using features, REST endpoints, are you using maps or apps?
For just the web part, the thing that's there, that's showing the map at all times?
Right.
Is that right? Okay. That's just, we built a web part off of our JavaScript API, and we include it in our product whenever we deliver it, or whenever you download it. It will come in as a new web part.
Okay, so it's not, so could I take a map I provided on just online or portal and use that in there?
Yeah, so you're talking about a web map, and you just want to load that in, you kind of want to pour it into that web part. You can absolutely do that.
Same with an app as well?
I'm not sure about an app. I don't think.
You mean a search app? The search app is no, but so we have two map components. One is existing one. This is the one you're seeing. This is the existing one, and the search app that Scott showed in the last minute is a new one.
Yeah, click on Add Data, and let's show him Add Data. So when you click on Add Data, you can add content from SharePoint or from ArcGIS, and so from ArcGIS is what you're going to want. And that isn't going to show apps, I don't believe. It's going to show you web maps, it's going to show you feature services, it's going to show you
map services.
map
things like
services. Yeah. Yeah, no problem. Right. Any other questions? One more?
How do you support Office 365 in a shared environment?
Yeah, so the question is, how do we support Office 365? We do support SharePoint Online.
Yes, and the search app that Scott just showing you, this one is actually in SharePoint Online, and we have the same extensibility story for ArcGIS Online. They are the same.
How do you get the web part installed initially? How do you get the components up there?
You mean for online or for
SharePoint Online.
Online. For online, we have Office Store. You can just go to your online site, click on Add an App, and go to SharePoint Store and search, maybe search Esri or search ArcGIS. You will find our app. Then click Add it. It's hosted in Office Store.
Sure. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm ready for the hard one.
Yeah.
Okay, disconnected environment.
Okay.
So not connected to any normal internet. And the search engine that you're using, is it enterprise search or the free OWS server search? And can I configure it?
For the new search part that we showed you? Okay, the question was, what about disconnected environments, and what search do we use? Do we use the free one or another one?
We were using the enterprise search, SharePoint enterprise search.
So so that means everybody's got to configure their enterprise search first.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And you're going to have the ability to set which enterprise search I'm going to use?
No. You have to pre-configure your enterprise search. You have to configure your search application and associate with your web application. And our app is working on top of a healthy enterprise search configuration. And you have to set up your crawling schedule, things like that.
Now, that's all done, but the difference is this, and this may be a future thing to discuss.
Yeah.
Okay? When I have 300,000 files in a single site, one site, right? And with a group of 1,000 sites that I've got, on that one site, I need to restrict people to searching in there. So if you say that I have the web part that goes to enterprise search, it goes through all 1,000 sites, and I don't want that.
Yep.
I want it in the limit.
Yep.
The current site. Okay.
Yeah. So you want to be able to restrict which sites it actually searches.
Correct.
Yep. Okay.
But if people do enterprise search properly, you have one for global, like you're talking about, right? And then you have individual ones that are configured as an enterprise search specifically to that site.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
And I need, in that web part, I need the capability to narrow down to that specific search center.
That's great feedback.
Yeah, we will definitely add it. Yeah, it's doable. It's completely doable. It's just a one,
Yeah.
say, I want to search within the current site.
Yeah, see, I'm not criticizing it.
No, it's not taken as criticism. It's great feedback. We love hearing what works, what doesn't work, so that we can make it better. Yeah. Any other questions? I think we're right at time. So let's end questions here, and we'll get moving. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your time today. Hope you've had a great Dev Summit.
Thank you.